You're listening to the 205th edition of the Bitachon podcast. We are studying together the passuk in Tehillim, perek Yud Beis, passuk Zayin. Mishmua ra lo yira, nochen libay batuach b'Hashem. The one who trusts in Hashem, he feels so confident, he feels so sure. He's not afraid of any negative news. We studied together last week the story of how Hillel HaZaken came home. He heard screaming in the city. He knew it wasn't in his house. Let's learn together a little bit more about this idea. The Rabbeinu Yonah says in Mishlei, Ki bal ha'yira lo yigziru ra alav min hashamayim v'ke'inyan shekasu b'sheish tzaros yatzilcha. The passuk says in Eov that in 6 different situations of difficulty, Hashem will save you. And what does that mean? It means that someone who has the proper yira, which is, we're trying for that. I don't want to say that we are that. We're going for that. If we're trying to have bitachon, it means we're trying to fear Hashem. We have a relationship with Hashem. We're trying to live in a space of reverence and awe of Hashem, trying to do His will, trying to trust Him. So if that's where we are, that's where we're trying to be. So this type of person, nothing evil can befall that person. Even if Hashem has decreed a decree upon a nation, a country, and it's collective, the righteous individual will not be affected by that decree. It's very interesting. We don't think about it this way ordinarily, but that's what Rabbeinu Yonah says. He brings our passuk. The person who is nochain libay batuach b'Hashem, he's absolutely certain. He has full confidence in Hashem, so he's not afraid of any bad tidings, which means that there are bad tidings going on, the way the Rabbeinu Yonah is explaining it. There's bad stuff going on in the world, heaven forbid. But the tzaddik is not afraid of it. The righteous individual, the one who fears Hashem, the one who is trying to have bitachon, the person we're trying to be, that person is assured that nothing negative will occur to them. He brings here from the Imrei Noam, which is interesting because it's kind of a contrast to what we spoke about last week. Last week we said a pshat from the Shnei Luchos HaBris that the one who comes home, Hillel HaZaken, when he came home, he was sure that they weren't screaming like that in his house. So the pshat that we said was because they wouldn't handle negative situations that way. They would handle it with equanimity. They wouldn't be screaming. But we'll see here from the Imrei Noam that it's a different pshat, which I think is more of the pasuk pshat. He brings that there are those who explain that it was the yelling that wasn't in the house. You can't say that nothing bad happened, because we find that people are tzaddikim, they're righteous individuals, who negative things do occur to them. So that's what some people explain, says the Imrei Noam. But he says, the fact that the Gemara brings our passuk that we're discussing, that the person is not afraid of any bad news, it sounds like Hillel HaZaken's bitachon was that there was nothing negative going on in his house. Not just that they weren't screaming like we saw last week, but that there was no reason to scream. Says the Imrei Noam, this is what it really means. The deeper understanding, perhaps, of the Maimer Chazal is that Hillel HaZaken had confidence that nothing bad would happen in his house. That's really what the pasuk means. Mishmur ra lo yira. Not afraid that any bad news is going to come upon him. And there's a parenthesis here, a brackets. I'm not sure if this is added by the author of the Sefer here, or if it's in the Imrei Noam itself, but he says, we do find that there were righteous individuals who had difficulties. He lays down the aside, which we've been talking about. It's important to know that even at tzaddik, something negative can happen to them. A righteous individual, if they're missing bitachon, and that's to do with the strength of their heart. How firmly do they believe that their bitachon is, how real is it to them? How real is their relationship with Hashem? That's what it comes down to. Gemara in Chulin and the Zayin Mabei says, Shani Rabbi the Nefishas Chusei. It talks about a story over there. It's kedai to see the story inside on Chulin, page 7b. There's a story where Rabbi Chanina, it's a Gemara, it's talking about kshafim, it's talking about people who were able to use black magic, which by the way still exists in India. I heard it from the mouth of Rabbi Yaakov Hillel, who grew up in India. He saw it himself, but black magic is a real thing. And in Rabbi Chanina's time, there was a particular witch who he found dirt under his feet. He took some of that dirt. And this witch was planning to place some kind of spell on Rabbi Chanina. And the Gemara says, in the pashas of the Gemara says that kshafim, the concept of kshafim, which means magic, black magic, is makrish pamal yashamala. That's what the word kshafim is, makrish pamal yashamala. That's what the word is in Otrikon. I lost the word in English for it. A contraction. There it is. It's a contraction. Kshafim is the contraction for the words Makish Pamal Shamala. It seems, the Pashas of the Gemara, it sounds like, you can use black magic to cause someone's death, heaven forbid, who doesn't deserve to die. Gemara says, we know Rabbi Chanina. What did he do when this witch came, took the earth from underneath his feet? He wasn't afraid. He said, Einayim Levadai, afilu b'kshafim. He said, there's no power that exists except for Hashem. Even the kshafim, they don't have the power to do something against Hashem's will. Those who perform black magic. So the Gemara says, how could it be? We just said that's not true. Kshafim do contradict Hashem's will. The Gemara explains, Shani Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina was different. Why? The Nefishas Chusei, because he had a lot of merits, which the Imrei Noyam is explaining it to try to understand what does it mean. He's explaining that it means that his level of bitachon was very strong. Nefishas Chusei means not just that he was a big tzaddik, he did a lot of mitzvahs, but the connection that he had to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the type of bitachon that he had was resolute, absolute. There's no doubt in his mind. This is real. My relationship with Hashem is real. Hashem's protection of me is real. It was absolute. So kshafim had no power over him. And in the Gemara over there, the Meforshim say, I don't remember if it's Rashi, I don't remember where I saw it, but the Meforshim say that the Pamal Yashamala changes the heavenly angels. Usually when there's kshafim, when there's black magic, they step aside, they let the black magic take effect. But in the case of a big tzaddik, and as we understand it, in the case of somebody who has powerful bitachon, so the malachim don't step aside. They stand up for that person. This is a person who has a real connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're there for you. The angels are there for you. If you step into that place, and this goes along with what we said right before, there could be a gzeira on the whole world, or the whole country that a person is in, heaven forbid. A person is a real Baal Bitachon. It doesn't affect them. Famous story with Reb Chaim Brisker, Einam Levadai. He said Einam Levadai, he walked through the German lines. Gershon Liebman, Navardiker, was saved in this way as well. Similar way from concentration camps. The Gzera doesn't apply to the true Baal Bitachon. And no evil can befall that person. Hillel Zagin came in, and he knew nothing was going on in his house, because he knew that that's the kind of bitachon that he had. Brings here the oil Yaakov, Mavur b'Medrash. The Medrash says, Karav Hashem l'chol karav. Hashem is close to all those who call out to him. We say this every day in Ashrei. Yachol lakol. It says, Tayo Hashem lakol, right? Hashem is good to everybody. But it says, Karav Hashem l'chol karav. He's close to all those who call out to him. You might think it means to anybody, to everyone. Talmud Laimar l'chol asher yikru b'emes. And then the passuk says a limitation on it. It's not true that Hashem is close to anyone who calls out to Him. It's true about anyone who calls out to Him for real. Be'emes. So the oil Yaakov, very interestingly, and we have to know how it lines up with other opinions, because we do know that even an evil, wicked person can have bitachon and it will work. But here the oil Yaakov is saying something a little different. He's saying that it's true that a Rasha who trusts in Hashem, it's going to work. It can work. It will work if he's sincere, if he really means it, if he calls out, Hashem, save me. So, if he has real bitachon, the bitachon will work. But, how does Hashem deal with the person? The person doesn't really deserve it. If this person will be saved, it's not going to work out well for him. He's a Rasha. He's just going to end up continuing in his evil ways. You need to know that the truth is that if the wicked person calls out to Hashem, Hashem will answer. He says an amazing thing. He says, it's difficult to understand, but this is what it says. That Hashem makes it impossible for the person to really have bitachon. A wicked person, they try to have bitachon Hashem, Hashem sees where these things are headed. It's not going to work. He's not going to have that full-fledged bitachon. He's not going to really call out to Hashem in truth. And the result will be that he doesn't have full bitachon, and therefore he won't merit that full salvation. And listen to this, because it's important for us to understand we're not wicked, but we don't always have the full bitachon. Sometimes Hashem has rachmanis on us, but we need to know that we have to try our best to have the full bitachon, because ordinarily the salvation that we're seeking is dependent on our bitachon. He says an amazing thing. If you feel bitachon, you feel it. Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. But if you feel it, it's a siman for you. It's a sign that you're going to have that salvation. It's going to come. Sometimes you're driving into a parking lot and you just have this feeling, there's going to be a spot. Sometimes you actively have to have bitachon, but sometimes you just have the feeling. If you have the feeling, then you should know that that is a sign that you're going to have that spot. When Hashem doesn't want the person to have bitachon because he doesn't want to answer them because they don't really deserve it, Hashem actually covers the person's heart with a disbelief. There's a line here on the bottom. There's a note. Brings from the Leshem in the Sefer Adeya. So that's the grandfather of Rabbi Yashiv. There's a secret here. Sometimes, when it's Hashem's will, to bring a certain decree on someone, and he's doing it for whatever reason. He has his private reasons. We're not privy to Hashem's thinking, of course. Hashem can take away a person's free will and place fear in their heart. Until it's impossible for the person to then strengthen themselves with a midah of bitachon, with this character trait of having faith. So that's what the Leshem says, the same idea. Because Baruch Hu will sometimes take away a person's free will. Okay, none of us are wicked. None of us are the kind of people who will lose our free will, but we can notice how we feel about bitachon. Sometimes we need to strengthen ourselves more, and sometimes it's just there. If it's just there, it's a good sign. But he points out at the end of the Leshem here, which is funny because there's a famous line which is not a chazal, Ein davar ami b'fnei haratzon. There's nothing that stands in the way of the will. A person really wants something. can't stop the person. Which Chazal say something similar. The way a person wants to go, they lead the person. But the Leshem says the line, Ein, I want to read it again, Ein davar amid neged habitachon. If you really have bitachon, nothing can stop you. If you really have real bitachon, if your relationship with Hashem is real, you're really calling out to Him, nothing can stop your bitachon. Right, this is the idea of the two different drushes we have. We said in the passuk last week, if you recall, or maybe you don't, and we'll review it. We said that there's two ways to read the passuk. That Mishmor Yira, the person is not afraid of any negative news. Either it's a guarantee that a person who has bitachon is not afraid of anything, which is what Hillel Zaken was illustrating, or it's a statement that the person has to have such a bitachon to the point where he's not afraid. It's not necessarily a promise. It's appropriate for a person not to be afraid of anything fearful. As we said, if a person is afraid, it can cause them damage. So he's saying it means that sometimes a person just feels it inside. Sometimes a person doesn't feel it. Watch out for that. You got to strengthen yourself then. But sometimes a person does feel it. And then if you feel it, you don't have to be worried. You don't have to be afraid. Hashem's going to help him. There's no question. There's no doubt. And therefore, this individual is not afraid of any bad news. Says the Al-Sheikh, he brings also a similar idea to what the Gemara says. When a person is afraid, a person is in a situation and is afraid, so it shows that there's something in him that's off. If I have full bitachon in Hashem, it means that I feel like I'm on, so to speak, good terms. My relationship is all right. I know myself. I know my mistakes, and I know I'm working on fixing those mistakes. If that's where I am, so I'm not afraid, because I know HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I know that. If I'm in a good place, it's easier for me, I would say, to be in a place of bitachon. If I'm spiritually in a good place. That which it says in the passuk before or earlier, in the fifth passuk, that we spoke about the fact that a person, this last week again, that a person needs to be doing kindness, or Hashem is doing kindness with those who are doing kindness. It means when you don't have any sins. It means that you're working on yourself, you're trying to fix your mistakes. How do you know? You can tell where you're holding spiritually. You can tell from how you react to situations that are fearful. What does my spiritual relationship with Hashem look like? What is my outlook? A person naturally feels more confident. I feel more assured. This is a big musar. I feel more comfortable with myself when I'm cleaning up my act. It comes around Yom Kippur time and we're making phone calls, apologizing to the people we've done wrong to. We feel better about ourselves. We feel like we can walk into a Yom Adin right, in a correct way. We feel more like, I'm okay. And then, by the way, it's something you can do anytime. We could always apologize for the mistakes that we've made, and we ought to. It's a good idea to be on the lookout for mistakes that we're making and apologizing, trying to be better. If we're doing that, so then we're not afraid. We're not so afraid. The fear comes from a place of I don't deserve help. I'm not really deserving of Hashem's divine providence. A person can think that, which we've discussed. Alter Navadi says a person shouldn't think that way. I feel even someone's wicked and trust in Hashem. But let's be honest. We're human. We make mistakes. And we know that those mistakes, we feel that those mistakes affect whether Hashem will help us. So one way to strengthen our Bitachon is to fix our mistakes. To try to be back in a proper relationship with Hashem. To try to be fixing the things we've done wrong as we do them. Between our fellows, between ourselves and Hashem. Thank you so much for listening. See you again next time.